There's a seed that costs $2 and grows into a tree that produces more protein per acre than any livestock operation on Earth. More vitamin A than carrots, more calcium than milk, more potassium than bananas, more iron than spinach, and more antioxidants than any berry the supplement industry has ever put in a branded bottle. Not over growing season, every single month, year after year, from the same tree, without synthetic fertilizer, without pesticide, without irrigation in most climates, without any input whatsoever beyond the seed itself and the ground it grows in. The United Nations Food and Agriculture Organization identified this tree in formal reports as the most promising solution to global protein malnutrition. Military nutritionists in the 1940s studied its leaf protein concentration and concluded it was the highest quality plant protein they had ever analyzed. The tree contains all 9 essential amino acids in ratios that rival whole eggs. Indigenous communities across Africa, Asia, and Central America have been eating it continuously for 4,000 years as their primary protein source. Every major hunger relief organization uses it as their first-line nutritional intervention for acute malnutrition in children. The global processed food industry has spent 70 years making absolutely certain that the average person has never heard its name, because a tree that grows in any tropical climate, requires no inputs, and cannot be patented, has no place in a food system built around profit. It has no place in a system built around branded products, proprietary processing, and recurring consumer purchases. The tree is Moringa oleifera, and this is the story of the plant that could end protein malnutrition on Earth. Buried beneath 70 years of soy protein isolate, processed grain monocultures, and proprietary nutritional supplement branding. Welcome to Forbidden Camping. Subscribe and hit the bell right now. This is where we open the vaults they thought were sealed forever. Now, let me take you back to where this all begins. Let me take you back approximately 4,000 years to the Indus Valley civilization in what is now northwestern India and Pakistan. Archaeological evidence from Harappan sites, dated to approximately 2000 BC, documents the cultivation of a tree, the ancient Sanskrit texts called shigru, meaning something that moves quickly, a reference to the extraordinary growth rate that made the tree remarkable even to farmers accustomed to fast-growing tropical species. The shigru tree was documented in the Karaka Samhita, one of the foundational texts of Ayurvedic medicine composed approximately 300 BC. But it drew on medical traditions at least 1,000 years older. The Karaka Samhita describes shigru leaves as a treatment for over 300 conditions. This seems absurd until you understand that almost every condition described is some form of nutritional deficiency, and the leaves address virtually every deficiency. The ancient Indian physicians were not prescribing a drug. They were prescribing the most nutritionally dense food available to them in a concentrated leaf form. Egyptian records from the New Kingdom period, approximately 1400 BC, describe the cultivation of a tree called ban in gardens along the Nile Delta. Archaeobotanical analysis of plant remains from several New Kingdom sites has identified ban as Moringa peregrina, a close relative of Moringa oleifera. It was documented in administrative papyri as a cultivated crop with trade value. Roman writers, including Pliny the Elder, described a tree called ben. In his Natural History, written around 77 AD, he notes its edible leaves and seed pods containing an oil of remarkable purity used in perfumery. The ben oil described by Pliny is what we now call moringa oil, containing one of the highest concentrations of oleic acid of any plant. This makes it exceptionally resistant to rancidity and stable for long-term storage. Pliny noted it did not become rancid even after extended storage periods. He was describing the exceptional oxidative stability of moringa oil without any knowledge of its chemical basis. Now let's move to West African traditions. Documented by Portuguese explorers in the 15th century, the tree was called nebedaye in Wolof, meaning never die due to its drought resistance. Its capacity to regenerate after severe cutting and to survive conditions that would kill other plants was critical for food security in drought-prone landscapes. Let me take you to 1950. The United Nations Food and Agriculture Organization is assembling its first systematic survey of underutilized food plants. A botanist named Edward Popenoe submits a report on Moringa oleifera that describes its leaf protein content and its amino acid profile. The FAO Review Committee describes it as potentially the most significant food security crop ever documented. The report is filed and referenced for decades. But the global food industry, building a $7 trillion apparatus around processed grains, took no interest in a tree anyone could grow for free. Now, let me show you exactly why this works, because the nutritional chemistry of Moringa oleifera is one of the most extraordinary profiles ever measured. It is almost completely unknown to the populations who need it most and could access it most easily. Fresh Moringa oleifera leaves contain per 100 grams approximately 9 grams of protein, which is comparable to eggs at 13 grams per 100 grams. This is significantly higher than most other leafy vegetables, which range from 2 to 4 grams per 100 grams. The protein quality distinction is what makes moringa extraordinary. It contains all 9 essential amino acids that the human body cannot synthesize. Moringa leaf protein meets or exceeds the WHO reference pattern for complete protein, making it a rare plant-based complete protein source. The vitamin content is equally remarkable. Per 100 grams, fresh leaves contain approximately 7,464 international units of vitamin A. Compared to carrots, this concentration is exceptional. Dried powder contains approximately 25 times the vitamin A concentration of carrots by weight. Vitamin A deficiency is a primary driver of immune dysfunction. A small amount of moringa powder can prevent deficiency in children worldwide. The calcium content is also superior, with 185 milligrams per 100 grams in fresh leaves, compared to 120 milligrams in whole milk. Dried leaf powder contains approximately 17 times the calcium of milk by weight, requiring no animal husbandry or refrigeration. For populations without access to dairy, this represents a calcium source that only requires drying and grinding. Moringa leaves also provide significant iron, 4 milligrams per 100 grams, which is more than cooked spinach. With iron deficiency affecting 2 billion people, a daily serving provides enough to prevent deficiency in the majority of affected individuals. The antioxidant profile adds another dimension, containing high concentrations of quercetin and chlorogenic acid. The supplement industry sells these in capsules for $60 a bottle, yet moringa provides them naturally with no processing. Finally, the agronomic profile is profound. Moringa grows from seed to first harvest in less than 60 days. It tolerates drought that would kill other crops and grows in low-fertility soils where other plants fail. It produces leaves year-round with no seasonal dormancy and regenerates from the stump within weeks when cut back. A single tree provides nutritional requirements for an adult for decades, all at the cost of a single seed. Now here is where the story takes the turn the food industry has always hoped you would never reach. The global processed food industry generates over $7 trillion in annual revenue. The global dietary supplement industry generates approximately $150 billion per year on top of that. The protein supplement market, the whey and plant protein blends that fill the shelves of every health store, generates approximately $20 billion per year. Every dollar of that revenue depends on a foundational principle, that nutrition requires processing, and processing requires proprietary technology. That proprietary technology creates the brand differentiation that justifies the price premium that generates the revenue. Think about what the processed protein market sells you. Soy protein isolate is soybeans with everything removed except the protein fraction. The processing removes the fiber, the fats, and the micronutrients that make whole soy nutritionally complete. It produces a purified fraction that can be branded and sold at a significant markup over the cost of the raw soybean. The processing is the value proposition. Without the processing, there is no brand. Without the brand, there is no margin. Moringa leaf powder requires the following: grow the leaves, dry them in shade to preserve nutrients, and grind them into powder. That is the entire process. The raw material is free from the tree you grew. The equipment required is a food dehydrator and a spice grinder, totaling approximately $60 in home kitchen tools. The output is a product that exceeds the protein quality and antioxidant profile of virtually every branded supplement on the market, at a material cost per serving of approximately $0.02, 2 cents per serving, against a $1.50 to $3 per serving for commercial protein powders and vitamin supplements. You cannot build a $7 trillion food industry around a leaf that requires a dehydrator to outperform everything on the shelf. You cannot create a subscription model for a tree that produces harvestable leaves every 3 to 4 weeks indefinitely. You cannot build brand differentiation around a plant in continuous agricultural use for 4,000 years that cannot be patented. So the food industry did what it always does. It did not argue that moringa is nutritionally inferior. The nutritional data makes that argument impossible. It simply ensured that moringa remained associated with development, nutrition, and hunger relief. It kept moringa in the category of things that poor people use, rather than the category of things scientifically informed consumers choose. The categorization is not accidental. It is the only defense available to an industry whose products cannot compete with a $2 seed. On any nutritional metric, the industry fails against nature. That is the secret they spent billions to keep. But here is what the food industry's categorical framing could not accomplish. It could not make the nutritional data go away. The peer-reviewed literature on Moringa oleifera is among the most extensive bodies of nutritional research ever compiled on a single plant species. A systematic review published in the journal Food Science and Human Wellness in 2020 analyzed over 1,300 published studies across 60 years of research. The review confirmed the plant's complete protein profile, its micronutrient density, its antioxidant activity, and its documented clinical outcomes in malnourished populations. 1,300 studies, 60 years, consistent findings. Zero pharmaceutical or major food industry products developed from the research. The Mothers Initiative in Niger, a humanitarian program documented by the FAO, demonstrated that adding dried moringa leaf powder to the daily diet of severely malnourished children produced measurable improvements in nutritional status within 30 days, comparable to expensive proprietary food products at a fraction of the cost. Children who received moringa supplementation showed average weight gains of 227 grams per week during the 30-day intervention period. The FAO documentation describes this as among the most cost-effective nutritional interventions ever documented in humanitarian relief operations. The agroforestry community has been documenting moringa cultivation for food security in tropical and subtropical regions consistently since the 1980s. Trees for Life International has distributed moringa seeds and cultivation knowledge across dozens of countries, documenting community-level improvements in every program. In the developed world, a growing home gardening and homesteading community has been discovering moringa as a year-round leafy green for the past decade. A homesteader in coastal Georgia documented a container-grown moringa tree in a 2021 online journal, growing on a south-facing patio. The tree produced harvestable leaves within 60 days of planting from seed and continued producing through the growing season. She dried and powdered the leaves using a food dehydrator and kitchen blender, calculating approximately 30 servings of dried moringa powder per month. Each serving containing the protein equivalent of 1 egg, the vitamin A equivalent of 1 medium carrot, and the iron of 1 serving of spinach. At a total growing cost of approximately $8 for the season, including the initial seed cost. 30 nutritionally complete servings per month, $8 per growing season, from one tree in a container on a patio. The food industry sells the equivalent nutritional content in branded supplement form for approximately $45 to $90 per month. Here is exactly what to do. And I want to be clear that Moringa oleifera is a tropical and subtropical tree that grows outdoors year-round. It grows only in USDA hardiness zones 9 through 11, which includes Florida, coastal California, Hawaii, Texas Gulf Coast, and similar climates. In colder climates, moringa can be grown as a container plant moved indoors for winter or grown as an annual from seed each spring. The extraordinary growth rate from seed to harvestable leaves in 60 days makes annual cultivation viable even in northern climates with short growing seasons. Here's what you need. Number 1, Moringa oleifera seeds, not Moringa stenopetala or other species, which have different growth characteristics. Moringa oleifera is the species with the documented nutritional profile. Seeds are available from tropical suppliers, online retailers, and mainstream seed catalogs. A packet of 25 seeds costs between $4 and $8 and is more than sufficient to establish multiple trees. Number 2, well-draining growing medium. Moringa has one non-negotiable requirement. It will not tolerate waterlogged soil. In containers, use a fast-draining potting mix with added perlite at approximately 30% by volume. Ensure the planting location has good drainage. Number 3, a large container for cold climate growers. A 15 to 25 gallon container provides enough root volume for vigorous growth. Here is the planting and growing process. Plant seeds directly in their final growing location, as moringa does not transplant well due to its deep taproot. Plant seeds at approximately 1 inch depth in moist growing medium. Germination occurs within 5 to 12 days at soil temperatures above 65 degrees Fahrenheit. Once germinated, moringa grows with extraordinary speed. In warm conditions with adequate water, the seedling will reach 12 to 18 inches within 30 days. At 60 days, the tree will have multiple sets of compound leaves ready for harvest. Now, here's the critical management technique, coppicing. Left to grow without pruning, moringa becomes a tall tree that concentrates its leaf production high above easy reach. Cut back to a height of 1 to 2 feet after the first 60 days, the tree responds by producing multiple new shoots from the cut point. Cut these back at 60-day intervals, and the tree develops into a dense, waist-high shrub that produces maximum leaf yield. This technique is standard practice in all documented moringa leaf production operations, from FAO nutrition programs to commercial producers. For leaf processing, harvest young leaves and tender stem tips. Wash thoroughly and spread in a single layer on dehydrator trays. Shade drying is important because direct sunlight degrades heat-sensitive vitamins including vitamin C and some B vitamins. Dry until leaves crumble easily between fingers, which takes approximately 4 to 8 hours in a food dehydrator at 95 to 105 degrees Fahrenheit. Once dry, grind to a fine powder in a spice grinder or blender. Store in airtight glass jars away from light and heat. Daily serving recommendation is 1 to 2 tablespoons of dried moringa leaf powder added to food or beverage. The powder has a mild, slightly grassy flavor that blends easily into smoothies, soups, sauces, and cooked dishes without significantly altering taste. Total annual cost for a year's supply from one container-grown tree is approximately $8 to $15. The food industry charges $45 to $90 per month for the equivalent nutritional content in branded supplement form. The tree does not know what the supplement industry charges. It simply grows toward the light and produces its extraordinary nutritional profile. Start growing your own today. It's been producing the same nutrition for 4,000 years of continuous human cultivation. Some knowledge does not disappear because it failed. It disappears because the industry built on the problem it solves cannot acknowledge the solution without dismantling its own foundation. The ancient Indian physicians who documented Shagru and the Karaka Samhita were not writing nutritional supplement marketing copy. They were recording what they observed when people ate the leaves of this tree and what happened to conditions that had not responded to other treatments. They observed people recovering from deficiency states that we now understand as protein malnutrition, vitamin A deficiency, iron deficiency, anemia, and calcium deficiency. Modern laboratory analysis of its composition reads like a curated list of the precise nutrients that global malnutrition programs spend billions of dollars trying to deliver. The FAO botanist who identified Moringa oleifera as potentially the most significant food security crop ever documented in 1950 was not making a speculative claim. He was reading the same nutritional data that 1,300 peer-reviewed studies published over the following 70 years would confirm in increasing biochemical detail. The West African farmers who named it Nebediae, never die, were not being poetic. They were describing the survival characteristic that makes this tree uniquely valuable. It grows when nothing else grows, it recovers when nothing else recovers, and it feeds people when nothing else will. Every hunger relief organization knows this tree. Every agronomist who has studied tropical food security for more than a decade knows this tree. The only people who do not know it are the consumers of the $7 trillion food processing industry, whose entire economic model depends on a factory. The seed costs $2. The tree grows in 60 days. It produces complete protein every month for the life of the tree from a stump. It cannot be patented. It cannot be monopolized. It cannot be made proprietary. It can only be grown and harvested and eaten. If this vault changed how you look at protein powder or the hunger crisis, subscribe and share this with someone who deserves to know the truth. The most nutritionally complete food on earth costs $2 and grows toward the sun with nothing but water and soil. The next vault opens soon. Inside is the ancient healing clay that kills superbugs that modern antibiotics cannot touch for $1 per pound. We will see you then.